You ever get a job that you really hated? Nah, probably never had one of those, huh? I mean, like you just spanked me, just hated. You wanted to get out of it in the worst way. You tried everything you possibly could. You tried to connive somebody else. You give your little sister some extra money or candy bars or something like that to do it or whatever it might be. You're trying to get out of it in any way you can, but you can't get out of it. You ever had that? Or am I the only one? I'll tell you a job that I had that I absolutely hated and I had to do. Back on the farm, I raised some pigs, okay? And typically what I would have would be like one or two pigs. I'd stuff one in my freezer. I'd give one to my dad and he'd stuff one in his freezer. And you have to understand what goes on with pigs. What I would do is I would buy them as like feeder pigs, okay? They're like 25-pound pigs. These little pigs that just get off mama and, no more nursing and everything like that. They can eat meal and so on and so forth. And I would, in 100 days, take that pig from 25 pounds up to 225 pounds. They average 2 pounds a day as far as putting on weight. So in 3 months' time, I could take that pig and get it to slaughtering weight. Now, here's the story. What I would do is I would get between 800 and 1,000 pounds of pig feed, and I would constantly have that feed in front of them. Now, what we're talking about, anybody who does math real quick, what we're talking about is rather somewhere in the vicinity of 4 to 5 times the actual weight of the pig, as far as the gain of weight of the pig, is being put into him. So are you going where I'm going? There's a lot of byproduct there, right? Okay, so I've set up for like two pigs or something along those lines. This one year, by last year that I was in the last year I was in raising pigs, I had like 8 pigs. People were coming out of the woodwork going, "Can you raise a pig for me? I really could use one." And I didn't learn how to say no at that point in time. So I got like 8 pigs in this pen that's made for like 2 or 3 pigs. And then going, oh boy. Am I painting you a picture? Okay. It wasn't pretty. To say the very least, it was not pretty whatsoever. But I got them to market and so on and so forth. And that's when the ugly job started. To clean that thing out. There were flies all over the place. Oh man, it was just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Pig farming has made the dirtiest jobs list. Mike Rowe actually had a show where pig farmers were considered one of the dirtiest jobs. What didn't make Mike Rowe's show was tattoo artistry. That wasn't one of the dirtiest jobs. And I submit to you today that Jesus came to the world in order to clean up the mess of the world. That's why he became like us. In the letter to the Hebrews, the author of that letter has this passage that you see up on the screen. We're going to read this, and this passage offers us 4 reasons why Jesus became like us. Let's read it, and then we can talk about it. Both the one who makes the people holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. He says, I will declare your name to my brothers and sisters. In the assembly, I will sing your praises. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again, he says, here I am, the children God has given me. Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity so that by his death, he might break the power of him who holds the power of death. That is the devil. And free those who all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. For certainly it's not angels he helps, but Abraham's descendants. For this reason, he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and high priest in the service to God, that he may make atonement for the sins of the people, because he himself suffered when he was tempted. He is able to help those who are being tempted. So here we have, in this passage, 4 reasons. We're going to go through those 4 reasons why Jesus became like us. The first one is so that we could fill out the family. In July, I had, we did this memorial service for my mom. She passed early in that month. And we did the memorial service, and one of the greatest things that come out of that memorial service was reconnecting with my cousin David. I hadn't seen him in 40 years. I couldn't have picked him out of a lineup. If he came right up to me in the streets, I would, who are you? Had no idea, no clue. But he came up to me and he introduced himself to me, and we reconnected, and it was the coolest thing going. That was exactly what Jesus did. That was exactly what Jesus did. You know, way back, before the beginning of time, we were all family. Our souls were family. You know, I'm not that old. I'm old, but I'm not that old. But we were all family. Our souls were connected with God. And then you had that Genesis thing going on where you got the apple and the Satan, the snake, and Adam and Eve and stuff like that. There was this separation. And Jesus came and reintroduced us to him. He became like us so we could become like him, a child of God. That's the first reason. Second reason is to teach trust. Tomorrow, you're going to have a whole mess of movies coming out. I guess Christmas is a great time for moviegoers. I don't know. But one of the movies that's coming out tomorrow in theaters is this movie Concussion. Concussion is this movie about this dude, Dr. Bennett Omalu, him discovering this CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I think that's right. Is that? Yeah, close enough. I was doing great until the nurses chimed in. But anyways, this dude discovers this CTE. I like that. Acronyms are good. The CTE in the brain of this dude, Mike Webster, the former Pittsburgh Steelers lineman. His brain was kind of whacked out, and he couldn't figure out exactly what the deal was, and he had to actually discover this CTE disease. And it came about through chronic traumatic concussions. So when he comes to this understanding that this is going on, he places this before the NFL. And you would think that the NFL powers that be would really kind of embrace this thing and want to protect their players, but they're going, no way, They challenged it. And they wanted to sweep it under the rug. Because if that was going to go down, something terrible was going to take place to the game that everybody loves. It would never be the same game. So the NFL was trying to sweep it under the rug. This was literally a David and Goliath thing, because here's this Nigerian doctor who doesn't know anybody or really isn't known by too many people. He's just obscure, taking on the NFL. This corporation owns every Sunday in fall and early winter too. Dr. Omalu had to trust that the truth would come out. And that's exactly the same thing that Jesus had to trust. See, he was on the cusp of giving his life for the world. And he was trying to trust. He had to trust that his Father was going to take that and he was going to make that known to all people so that many people's lives could be changed by that. We see that. We see that in these two verses, because these two verses really are quotes from Old Testament verses. Let's go through it fast. He says in verse 12, I will declare your name to my brothers and sisters in the assembly. I will sing your praises. This is a quote from Psalm 22. Now, you who are like Bible people know that Jesus quoted Psalm 22 on the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? It starts out really, really, really dark. Accusatory as far as his Father forsaking him. But it goes on, and towards the end, it gets to the place where he says, I will make mention of your name. And future generations will, I'm paraphrasing now, future generations will connect the dots and come to the knowledge of you. And you can see that in verse 13 here, which is a quotation from Isaiah 8. It says, and again, I will put my trust in him. And again, he says, here I am and the children God has given me. Jesus needed to trust his Father. His Father had called him to sacrifice his life, but he needed to trust his Father to make that life worthwhile. Just not him doing this sacrifice thing for nothing. So Jesus taught us how to trust. That's number 2. The third is Jesus became like us in order to destroy death. I think I was like in 6th grade. And we had, at Orchard Park Elementary School, we had this after-school program that they offered to us where we could check out films, this is back in the day, films of various topics. And I was kind of consumed, obsessed on World War II. It was kind of cool and so on and so forth. So I wanted to see all these films of World War II and checking out the Battle of the Bulge and stuff like that. And it was really, North Africa campaign and all this other stuff. And it was really cool, except for one Friday. They showed the Nazi concentration camps of Auschwitz, Dachau. And I had never seen, you're talking 6th grader, I had never seen scenes like that before. You have these heaping piles of bodies. And you got these ovens where you got partially burned up skulls and things like that, the gas chambers. And that freaked me out. I did not sleep that weekend. Why? Because I was scared to death of death. I was scared out of my mind of death. Jesus came so he could destroy death. He came so he destroyed death. If he was God, he couldn't die. Hello? Wake up call. Kind of prerequisite to be immortal if you're God, right? So Jesus had to look like us in order to die. And in the death process, and his Father's power allowing him to raise above the dead, he destroyed death. So he destroyed the fear that we would have of death. That's what he did. He needed to be a human. He needed to be like you and me in order to die so he could destroy death. And the last reason why Jesus looked like us is in order for him to set aside a sympathetic high priest. Once again, this is kind of like going back in the annals of John's history here. 10th grade. I went to Orchard Park High School. It was a 3-story building. They had a courtyard like in the middle. And this was like in the middle of winter. I was kicking it with some of my friends. We were after school. We had done some weightlifting and we were just kicking it. And one of my friends said, I dare anybody to jump out the 2nd-story window into the snowbank. I'm going, I could do that. So here I go, out the window, into the snowbank. I swim out of the snowbank. It was really, back in the day, it was like Tundraville. So I swim out of the snowbank, and it was awesome. I was all full of snow and everything. Going back into the high school, and I go back to my friends, and they're going, Dad, was so cool, awesome. But there's another story. You can't do number 3, can you? I said, oh, yes, I can. So I climb out on the ledge, all right? Unbeknownst to me, the lead principal of the school, Dr. Abels, his office looked out onto the courtyard. So he was standing right there. He had seen me take the Brody off the 2nd floor, and now he's looking for number 3. He was standing right there along with all the other principals of the high school. They were having a meeting when I was coming down. So they're all watching me, and I take the Brody off of the 3rd floor. And I'm swimming out, doing the backstroke out of the snow pile again. And I go back to the door that I'd gone back into the high school the first time with, and Mr. Fort meets me at the door. He says, Now, I know Mr. Ford pretty good because I got in a lot of trouble. I got in a lot of trouble. So he escorts me to Dr. Abel's office, and he sits me down in the secretary's office just outside the principal's office. He closes the door, but I could hear the conversation going on between him and Dr. Abel's. And Mr. Ford, who knew me, was advocating for me. He was saying, he's not a bad kid. He's a knucklehead. He's a bonehead. Yeah, but he's not a bad kid. That's exactly what Jesus does for us. That's exactly what he does for us before the Father. He's a whole lot higher pay grade than Mr. or Dr. Abels. He does that all the time before the Father. Why? Because he's been through it. If you're God, you don't get tempted. But if you're human, you do get tempted. And Jesus needed to become human in order for him to be tempted. And that's what's being expressed in that last line. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. We have a sympathetic high priest who advocates for us before the Father continuously. Won't you pray with me, please? Heavenly Father, we give you so much thanks and praise because you sent your Son to clean up the world. You sent your Son to incorporate us into your family, to teach us trust, to destroy death, and to set up a sympathetic high priest. We're so thankful. We humbly thank you and praise you this evening for what you did 2,000 years ago. Words can't express the thanks. Praise you. In his name, amen.